Welcome back in studio for the last time, anyway, in regards to Halloween, and that is John Punchon, it became John for some reason, our resident horror movie expert. You've almost made your way through the Halloween season watching movies. You're starting to catch up finally. And we're going to go a little more recent for the filmography you've been covering, and with a couple that have been pretty big hits in the last couple of years. So we'll start with The Babadook.
Yes, yeah, The Babadook is more of a, I guess, more of a cult following to it. It's well known in the horror circles, but definitely didn't have a big box office release. But a really interesting film. It's actually made by a first-time director in Australia. Yeah, just a really slow-paced, but really creepy, and sort of became, in the horror circles anyway, that new sort of horror character that's really resonated with fans of the genre. I really like it. It's got more of a message about the impacts of mental illness. So it's not just going after the bad guy or the villain or the monster and ending it. It's got a much more deeper social commentary to it. Yeah,
as you said, good horror films often have that social commentary to them. Another recent hit, at least in horror circles, though this one did have a decent box office return, was The Witch.
Yes, The Witch came out in about 2015. Again, really slow burn, very much a period piece. So it is not for everyone. There are people, much like The Babadook, that there are people in the horror fans that simply just don't have time for them. Some horror fans like the jump scares, others like that slower burn, like I do. This one's really interesting in that it, again, is very slow, period piece, so they use 16th century English, so sometimes it's hard to understand, so some people may want to try with the subtitles on. But again, really creepy atmosphere. The ending is definitely leaves you a little bit, your skin crawling a little bit.
Yeah, and that was something I heard from many people who saw the next film, which was one of this year's hits, Hereditary.
Yes, again, very divisive. There were some people that really didn't enjoy it. Again, there's not a lot of jump scares. It's really creepy, though. It's thought-provoking. I found that again, it sort of delves into a little bit about mental illness, dealing with family tragedy and crisis. And again, that's the horror that I really like, is the stuff that just has deeper undertones to it. It's not just about those cheap jump scares. Not to say that those aren't fun, but those that stick with me the longest when I talk about horror films are ones like that. Yeah,
and one of the studio that's kind of taken on the most of that and certainly produced the most of these films is Blumhouse, which is really kind of one of the most successful film studios in the industry now.
For sure, and certainly Get Out was released from them, and that was a huge hit. Again, an interesting film, more definitely social commentary in Get Out, and that was nominated for Best Picture too, which you don't see very often in horror films.
No,
really, The Exorcist
I think it's been more than 20 years since the last Silence of the Lambs, even if that's not technically a horror film.
Yeah.
It's kind of more of a genre.
More of a thriller, but some would argue horror. So, but yeah, The Exorcist was kind of that big sort of, that would really be a horror film that was nominated for Best Picture, but they are few and far between. So seeing Get Out get nominated was definitely interesting and good for the genre as well, because there is a lot that they're doing in that genre that perhaps because it just has that label sometimes get missed out.
Yeah, and of course some of the other films that you've covered or certainly watched anyway that are on that list of Blumhouse films include The Conjuring, Insidious, and other of those sorts. When we come back, another kind of modern cult classic and then a original classic to finish off our Halloween coverage with John Punchon. That'll be in the next hour.